Well, we're going to go into our exclamation points and question marks here from week 2. Like we said, we did a full pregame or postgame recap about an hour. If you want to check that out on our channel. But we're just going to get, a little bit removed from the game here on Monday. How we're feeling about this one. John, I'm going to let you take this one away.
Yeah, for me, the first thing that excited me from that game on Saturday against Oklahoma State was Will Stein dialing up those deep shots for Dante Moore in the offense. We saw Dante look really comfortable in that first game, taking his reads. He threw a lot of underneath passes, hit a couple over the middle, in some intermediate situations. But from the get-go in that game, they obviously hit the big play to Noah Whittington early on the run, and then they get it back a minute later, and he dials up a shot play to DeCorian Moore on a double move, and Dante hits it. Gets out of the pocket, hits it, gets his feet set, hits it on the money. Just a beautiful pass. And same to the one to Malik Benson. 2 for 3 for him on those 20-yard passes. He missed Jeremiah McClellan on one in the end zone as well. But the ball to DeCorian Moore and the ball to Malik Benson especially. I mean, that one was he Ducks were at the 42, so he dropped back to about the 50-yard line when he threw it, and it was 50 yards and not even like air under it necessarily. It was a bit of a laser beam, and
I feel like this zip on his passes is really
exactly. There's some real zip on that pass that had me excited about. You could see it opening up in that hole in the middle as the safeties kind of split. I could see it up where I was up in the press box, and I was like, oh, Malik Benson is breaking open right now. And then it was just instant. Dante hit the back of that drop back and laser beam to him for a touchdown. So I was really excited to see that. And those were. He only threw a few of those passes deep. So I was excited by the way he was able to still operate the offense as it's supposed to and hit those underneath passes for a lot of those yards after catch, which is what Oregon's offense has always been predicated around under Will Stein and even under Kenny Dillingham going back. But when he did, Dan Lanning said they had some of those dialed up that the looks weren't there in that first game to Montana State. And then once it got to a certain point, they weren't necessarily looking for those looks. So it was exciting to see that flash against Oklahoma State. They weren't doing it as much late in the game, but in that first half when they were trying to break the scoreboard, it was exciting to see a couple of those flashes, that deep passing game, and how exciting this offense could potentially be with Dante Moore's arm back there.
Yeah, I'm just fired. I mean, you talk about great arms, and we had a chance to see some of them in the NFL too. The Justin Herbert, I thought his performance against the Chargers showed that off. I mean, you saw Josh Allen play last night, and he's just superhuman. You look at those arms and you see the zip. And just when we talk about guys that are able to really fire a ball and beat guys over the top and layer throws and like throws that would not get there if you just put a little bit more air under him. And you see that from Dante. We're not saying that he's going to be that kind of quarterback for sure, but that's just something that, some guys like Dylan Gabriel didn't maybe have that.
Yeah, it feels like there's just a basis of an upper level of arm talent that Dante Moore has, where he does it kind of unlocks things that not all quarterbacks can do. And I talked to Malik Benson about that a media day over the summer, and he said for sure that he could feel that out there as a receiver, that these were throws that not every other quarterback, he might have felt like he was covered before on Thursday. He was getting hit on Dante because Dante could just fit it into some of those windows. So what do you have for your first exclamation point thing that excited you from this past weekend, Owen?
I'm fired up about the downfield blocking. That like feels like a highlight of this offense, honestly. These guys get really excited, like talking about it. It's become something that they clip out on the broadcast and will show you when the Ducks are up 40 points. They're like, hey, we need to pull something. Let's show the block. We don't need to show the DeCorian Moore touchdown again. Let's look at Kenyon Sadiq wrecking a guy downfield. Let's look at Jeremiah McClellan laying a block on someone. And I love how excited these guys get about it, because this was a really underrated receiver room coming into the season. We didn't take it in our position draft because we didn't feel like there was the proven quality there, but these guys have really made up for it. Not only with their play on the field in these first 2 games, but just with how invested they've been in making this offense work. I'm really excited about that, and I'm excited to see how it turns out when they get into Big Ten play, when they get into a more physical style of game.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to the program that Dan Lanning has been building here in Eugene, and what, the buy-in that he has from his players and the investment that he has from them, where they want to work hard and work hard off the ball like that. So exciting to see that. And I'm really impressed by what Ross Douglas has done in a short time since coming into this staff as the receivers coach.
And everybody in the program is speaking highly of him. Like you hear from Dan, you hear from these receivers just about the kind of guy he is. And it's always a risk you take, but it seems like Dan Lanning, as part of being a great coach here and building a great program, is really talented at hiring guys, just understanding who they are off the field and getting guys to connect with them. Because we've seen it happen with Rashad Samples when he came in, it seems like the running back room was immediately talking about this guy and being like, hey, we really buy in with him. And part of that's, what they want to have coming out of the program. They want you to think that he's a great coach because they chose to hire him. But it really does seem like there's a talent there in Dan Lanning's locker to hire guys who are not only great coaches, but great guys and who can get people to connect with them.
Yeah, those people skills are so much more important, I think, in college football than even the other levels of football, like the NFL, just because you do have to maintain so many relationships in terms of what recruiting is and the turnover that you have on coaching staffs. And so I think his ability to not only make really good hires, and he's been a really good judge of character with that throughout his tenure at his short tenure at Oregon so far, but to also be able to, like we said previously, retain guys like Will Stein for now his third season on as an offensive coordinator. Tosh Lupoy, not necessarily as hot of a name potentially in the head coaching market as a guy like Will Stein, but just a really, really strong defensive coordinator for this team. Chris Hampton, another guy who's been on the staff with Lanning for a couple of years now. It really speaks to the judge of character that Lanning is, and how consistently he's able to, find guys who are willing to buy into what his program is. And he has found that time and time again throughout the coaching staff and then, with the players he brings in.
Absolutely. Where are you going next with this?
All right, next thing that excited me, it was just how the overall, front to back dominance that this defense had. Yeah. It was at every level. The defensive line was creating penetration, and stuffing the run. The linebackers were flying around. Jerry Mixon had a phenomenal game. Devin Jackson had a really good game. And then the secondary, they continue to be. I felt it was suffocating, just the way if Oklahoma State must have felt trying to pass the ball throughout that game, between Zane Flores being in the pocket and just suffocating as it collapsed around him from the strength of this Oregon defensive line and some of those blitzes that they would bring on the creative stuff that Lupoy likes to draw up, and then the secondary just so quick to the ball to react when they would hit a short completion, and then Dylan Thienemann's there making a big hit to stop him for a short gain or negative yards even, and then guys getting in there to hit receivers as they're trying to catch passes across the middle in those short yard situations for breakups. Just really impressed by every level of the defense. I'd like to read out what Oklahoma State did throughout this game. Their offensive drive track, because it's 3 and out. They make one first down, then punt again. Then they get a field goal, their only points of the game, which was a fluke coverage bust, where there was some confusion in the secondary between Naeem Offord and Ifeoma Badegu, and they get one guy gets wide open. That's their only points of the game. They get a chunk play from that, and then eventually hit a field goal from the yardage that they gained. But then it's another 3 and out, end of half, 3 and out, 2 pick sixes in a row, 3 and out. They get one first down and then punt, and then the end of the game. So just front to back, Oregon's defense was absolutely dominant throughout this game. One of the best, overall performances I think I've ever seen from any level of college football. So very excited by that. So definitely, very excited by what this defense can do, and excited to see what they do when they do face those top tier offensive teams later this season. So, and I'm what do you got next up on something that you're excited about?
I'm gonna hang with the offense here. I'm just saying Montana State wasn't a fluke because this running back room is just supremely deep. We were talking about, hey, why do we think Mekhi Hughes isn't playing this time last week? And we're like, hey, just how talented is this running back room? Where they're just trying to find a way to really get some of this talent in the game that they feel like isn't going to get reps later in the season. But I think this game proves it, just how unbelievably deep this room is, because you see so many guys. Again, 7 guys get reps in this game. Mekhi Hughes is one of the very last, and he doesn't look bad, but the amount of variance and skill in this room, the guys who are power guys, the guys who are speed guys, just makes me excited, because it tells me that if this team gets into a situation where they need a guy to go outside zone and really just beat, they're going to say, hey, I need you to beat this nickel to the outside. I need you to get out there. They have guys who can do that. They have a guy who can bust it in, go right up the middle on 3rd and goal. That fires me up, because I feel like in the past, you've seen guys, this room have a guy like Bucky who's really strong and fantastic, but behind him you have some question marks. You have Noah Whittington, who was maybe injured at the time. You have a guy like Jaden Lamar, who's great, but he's unproven. These guys have all had a chance to prove themselves, and they look fantastic.
This running back room is just so deep, it seems, at that point. And like you said, the versatility of the guys in different roles, being able to put De'Aaron Hill kind of out as a receiver a little bit, use him on those jet motions to get his speed just out in space. bringing Jordan Davison in. And I've been really impressed by Jaden Lamar. I think he's a guy who doesn't get enough attention. He has his development year over year seems to just be incredible right now. He looks really explosive, really fast on the run plays. And he's a guy that they have out there a lot right now. He's been the running back 2 early this season because they do trust him to pass protect. They trust him to be an extra blocker out there when they need him to, and then be able to be a check down option for Dante Moore in the pass game. So really impressed by the running back group, and it's top to bottom depth overall.
Awesome. Well, let's hit your question mark here.
All right, the thing I still have a question mark about, and it's not necessarily a bad thing that there is a question mark about this, is what does the offense look like when it is challenged and it is behind the sticks and not operating to the the level it has throughout these first couple games here, where we've seen them consistently be able to pick up big yards on first and second down to create easy conversions and easily move the ball down the field, be able to hit those huge explosive plays for some of those big touchdowns. But what does this offense look like when they have to get off the script a little bit, when it's not Will Stein scripted these first 15-20 plays and we're going to march right down the field, when it is later in the game and it's 3rd and 8 and Dante Moore does have to just drop back, read out the defense and make a decision and pass the football. We haven't had to see it yet, which is a good thing because the offense has just been churning right now. But what does that look like going forward? Because it will certainly be challenged in a couple of weeks when they head to Penn State. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest question mark with this team. I'm going to go to the other side of the ball, but to touch on yours too, I think that's really going to be. We talk a lot about the maturity that some of these guys, we're saying, do they have it? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that proves it, because we feel like they have it here. We feel like they've shown that they can operate under pressure. The limited amount that we've seen, we've seen that they can operate in a 2-minute drill and a 4-minute drill, but we just haven't seen them like really challenged it. We haven't seen them say, hey, like, you're not in a spot you want to be in. You have to go problem solve. And you're off script. I'm excited to see that. And I believe they'll succeed because of what we've seen already.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a we'll have to see situation. I don't know. We'll get into a little bit later what we want to see over these next 2 weeks before they do head to Penn State. But the level of competition really is just not there early in this season. It is a nice little runway to kind of figure things out and experiment throughout the early parts of the season. But it's going to be interesting to see what that happens when they do really get tested, when they go on the road. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
I'm going to hit you with one more. My question mark here is just how this defense that has been so successful at home, so successful when it can keep the play in front of it, is going to do when it goes on the road. And then also when there's a team, when it plays a team that has an offensive line that can stymie this pass rush just a little bit, so that this secondary has to respect the deep shot. Because so far in these 2 games, really, it's been able to keep everything in front of it. You're limiting people to check downs and quick throws, and they're of course they do respect the deep shot, but there hasn't been a threat and there hasn't been a need to really drop off and play quarters and leave guys deep and really expose yourself underneath and let those linebackers go to work. I want to see what happens when you have a number 1 receiver who can ask some questions of this secondary. I want to see what happens when there's a guy in the slot because we saw Taco Dowler be really great in that Montana State from the slot. I want to see what happens when there's a team where he's not the only option. I think it could ask some questions of the defense that we haven't seen answered yet.
Certainly, there's tons of talent in this secondary. We've seen that be evident on the field over the first couple weeks of the season, but they have, like you said, they really haven't been tested. I'd have to look up the numbers, but I barely think Montana State threw the ball downfield at all, or Oklahoma State, except for that one coverage bust. So, yeah, we just haven't seen a team that has the talent on the offensive line to force the secondary to have to, like you said, have to cover for that long to be able to get those deep shots, or teams that have receivers that can really test. And that's what I think this team does excel at. I was surprised that Oklahoma State did get down in the red zone and they tried to just throw like some fade balls up there. That I was like, that's what these corners are going to be good at, because they're guys who are
huge,
like,
bro.
They're all
you can't do against Oregon.
Exactly. That's what they've done is really well in terms of building this roster. Those corners are all really long because they saw what happened against Jeremiah Smith in Ohio State in that Rose Bowl last year. So they got a bunch of long corners on this roster. So I was really surprised to see not trying to the thing with young corners like that, you think you'd want to try to confuse them down the red zone instead of just challenging them one-on-one, which is exactly what they're going to excel at. So definitely excited to see how this secondary shakes out, because it is just such a, the physical talent that a lot of these guys have is really exciting to see out there on the football field.